want to thank my amazing team from IVPN Patient Support who actually helped me making this active and making this possible. We have Dr. Haneen Al-Jamal. She is our team leader. She's my right hand. Dr. Ghattas Abu Dawood, my left hand, who is my project manager. We do have our designer, Aya Ibrahim. She's not here with us, but all these beautiful advertisement and flyers are done by my amazing designer, Aya Ibrahim. And my amazing person who is not with us here live, but I'm sure she's watching us from behind this screen, Dr. Tamadar Abu Riyah. She's our public relation and innovation team leader. Of course, we cannot forget the one and only Dr. Usama Tabbara, IVPN, the heart of IVPN. We're all vessels here, and Dr. Usama is the heart. And thank you so much for making this possible, Dr. Usama. And our IVPN organizing committee, thank you for them, Ahmed Abdeldaim, Ahmed Awaini, and Mariam Al-Khatib. And thank you, Access Corps, for supporting us in this amazing program. We're very happy to start our webinar here with Dr. Hajar Youssef Al-Mudayhim. It's my honor to introduce Dr. Hajar Al-Mudayhim. She is a graduate from the College of Pharmacy of King Saud in 2014. And she's also currently the head of National Drug Information Center at the Ministry of Health. Dr. Hajar, she is an advisor assistant deputy minister for therapeutic supportive services at the Ministry of Health in Saudi Arabia. She's also a director of drug policy and regulation division. She graduated from King Saud University in 2005, worked at the King Saud Medical Center Hospital, then joined the regional drug information, got her master's degree in clinical pharmacy in 2014. She was appointed as the head of National Drug Information Center at the Ministry of Health in 2015 and established more than 50 centers across the kingdom. She is responsible for the formulary management and recently appointed as a drug policy and regulation manager at the Ministry of Health in Saudi Arabia. She helped in operation of more than 930 hotlines of the Ministry of Health who operate 24/7 back in 2014 and helped reach with the establishment of 60 drug information centers. She's also a specialized clinical pharmacist and had a national and international activities where she published many papers and posters on drug information in Saudi Arabia. She's also a board member of the Pharmacy Professional Society and a board member of Saudi Clinical Pharmacy Society. It is an honor for me to introduce you and to be part of this activity. I'm thrilled that you're here with me, Dr. Hajar. And the stage, Allah Ysalmik, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Srimi. And I would like to thank you all and your team and patient support. Of course, Dr. Osama, thank you so much. I would like also to extend my thanks to Dr. Nahas. Thank you so much for supporting this activity. Do you want me to start sharing my slides?
Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
السلام عليكم جميعا. Thank you so much for joining. أسعد الله مساءكم بكل الخير أو صباحكم. I don't know where are you at the world. Thank you so much for being here today and spare 1 hour of your time to join us in this really very important and it's now being the hype in decision making when it comes to market access, formulary inclusion model. So today we are going to talk about the role of pharmacoeconomics in decision making. This is my conflict of interest. I have no real or potential conflict of interest in this subject that I'm going to present. So before just going deep dive in the introduction or on the pharmacoeconomics, when it comes to that we are going to talk about different models, let's just zoom on what are the vision of 2030 that led the Ministry of Health to change the way of introducing or adopting these new innovative interventions or medications. We know that one of the KPI is increase the life expectancy of our population. Now being 75 at this latest report, now the life expectancy is increased 5 more years to reach up to 80 years by 2030. And understanding this, we are facing an increase in population. We are facing an increased utilization of these services. We are faced by increase the number of the new medication and new intervention when it comes to this special population. Launching of very high expensive medication being innovative medications. With all of these, we're still having the same dilemma of constrained healthcare budget. Now, the Ministry of Health understand this 5 years back, and we shifted our, let's say, mode from value, from volume to value. Why is this? Because we see that the pipelines of having new innovative interventions and indications, we know that we still have the pressure or constrained budget. We understand that there is certain KPIs needs to be measured as certain outcomes or patient outcomes that needs to be measured, and the need of generating of real world evidence. All of these were driving us to change from volume to a value. Now, starting to implementing a successful value-based healthcare, we need to identify certain pillars that without them, we couldn't reach to where we are now. So major 6 main pillars that they are necessary to make sure that this value-based healthcare is successful is having enabling policy environment. So once we started by publishing our value-based healthcare policy when it comes to different layers or tasks and responsibilities by different stakeholders. The engagement of our stakeholders, because it's not only the payers, it's the payers, it's the providers, it's the regulators, it is the pharma industry as well, that all of these stakeholders need to be engaged and to maintain the successful of different value-based healthcare. Now, with that said, without having an infrastructure, IT infrastructure, by utilizing or by unifying and having electronic health medical records that will feed into certain platforms, we identify to be as our hub when we integrate or identify these certain outcomes that we need to measure, and we need to, let's say, follow up our patients in order to make sure that certain outcomes is being identified. We need to make sure that the patient flow in managing these different disease areas is being unified. And all of this needs to have a really integrated healthcare and IT structure, identifying different, let's say, platform. And one of these platforms is the digital registries that we are carrying in the Ministry of Health. Now, supported by multiple tools in value-based healthcare decisions, some of these important tools that we have heavily been utilized in the last 5 years, most importantly, is economic evaluations. We started focusing on budget impact, because us as a payer, we need to identify the impact of introducing certain or new innovative medications into the budget, into the formulary, and identify what are the budget inflations will be pertaining, adding these new medications to the formulary. So this was very important. And we also have reflected on a burden of illness, because we need to understand and identify the measures and all costs that contribute to the management of certain diseases. Third tool that we have utilized with our budget impact model and cost effectiveness is identifying certain value-based agreements or new innovative agreements when it comes to the introduction of certain, let's say, new innovative medications, because these value-based agreements really helped us in accelerating access of these new innovative medications to our formularies. In brief, what is pharmacoeconomics? So pharmacoeconomic is a branch of health economic that identifies, measures, and compares the cost of consequences of pharmaceutical product or service that is being introduced to the healthcare system. And pharmacoeconomics really what is intended to give you is to highlight the value of money. What is the value of money? We always understand that the value is what is the service that the quality of service that I'm getting over how much does this service cost me. But in a healthcare system, this translates by what is the patient outcome with the patient experience over direct and indirect cost. And this is very important. And this is exactly what pharmacoeconomic models built to identify what are the values, the value of money that we are spending. So we have multiple models, pharmacoeconomic models, and the selection of these models is really reflects by who is your audience and what are the interventions that you are going to evaluate. So we have the budget impact analysis, which is the, let's say, most utilized model in the payer perspective, because we tend to understand what is the budgetary impact of introducing such medication or such intervention with the current available intervention. And the outcome of this is always identified by the world with this new intervention minus the world without this intervention or technology. Now, the cost effectiveness analysis, it is a more comprehensive tool that we are currently also entertaining in doing such a certain cost-effective analysis. We've done a multiple cost-effective analysis. We've done lately. We have finalized the severe asthma cost-effective analysis, and these outcomes is reflecting a clinical outcome. Now, the cost-utility analysis, which is the third model, it is a part from the cost-effective analysis, but the outcome is being qualified measured by the utility. So as the QALYs. The cost minimization analysis, we tend not to use it because it's really just identifying or comparing similar medications with similar dosing and therapeutic effects. So it's not utilized that much. The most sophisticated one is the cost-benefit analysis, and we are now just currently entertaining the cost-benefit analysis of one of the recent project in the Ministry of Health, which is evaluating the premarital screening for SMA. As this, let's say, project was rejected previously, like more than 7 years, because we did not have any data that reflects the total number and what is the complication of managing spinal muscular atrophy. But now, after launching of our national SMA project, for 7 years, we've gathered the data, we've gathered real world evidence, and we are now ready to introduce the project using the cost benefit analysis. Again, the selection of these between these different models is reflected by the perspective or who is your audience. So for us being a payer, we always tend to use the budget impact analysis or cost-effective analysis. So this is these two models is more utilized by the payer and provider. There is other perspective, whether societal or the complete healthcare system, that reflects in different parts of rather than direct and indirect medical costs. Now, this is just to show you what is the awareness of the cost and cost expenditure related publication in the Ministry of Health in Saudi Arabia as general. So Saudi Arabia is superheading the multiple MENA region country in regards to the publication that really related to cost and cost expenditure. As you can see here, more than 25% of the publication were from Saudi Arabia and having are related to cost and cost expenditure. This is just to show you the workflow when we started after selecting the model that we tend to utilize or use in the evaluation of certain intervention or medication to be added. So after the selection of this model, we run literature review just to minimize the utilization of KOL opinions in the model structure. And then once we identify the patient population, the eligibility criteria, the endpoint that we wanted to identify and quantify this with the different the prices that we got from different for the cost, whether it is direct or indirect medical costs, and communicate this with the pharma industry and start doing the negotiation with different managed entry agreement or value-based agreements in order to facilitate or accelerate the introduction of these medication to the formulary, and then present these results to our PNT committee, which is the centralized committee for the Ministry of Health in managing the formulary. Now, this is just to give you what are the needs of doing pharmacoeconomics. As we said, it's really support the decision-making and inclusion of different interventions, whether a medication or different services. It shows you the affordability of introducing such medication or intervention to your healthcare. So whether you can afford introducing such medication or such intervention to your healthcare or not, it helps you to balance between the cost of this intervention and the outcomes. Does it really correlate with this cost or not? So these are some of the utilization or of the pharmacoeconomics models. Now, how does pharmacoeconomics use or being utilized in clinical trials? In phase 1 and phase 2, pharma industry tend to utilize more the cost of illness just to understand the impact of their intervention or the development of their drug. So whether they will proceed with, should they continue developing this drug, understanding their priorities based on the illness, burden of illness studies that I conducted. In phase 3 and 4, they tend to work more in cost effectiveness and budget impacts that introduce the introduction of their drug, whether if there is any alternatives or if there is no other alternatives with the current management of certain diseases. And this is where these models really differ between the different stages of the medication developments. This is a very interesting publication that I wanted to share that was published by Sultan in 2011, shows the utilization of pharmacoeconomic models in formulary decision-making. So you can see here that more than 75% utilizes the pharmacoeconomic evaluation in formulary decision-making. and more than 50% of them sees that it is very helpful in supporting them in when it comes to decision making, and more than 80% of the responders have fair knowledge of pharmacoeconomics. Now, more than about 50% of the responders has used more than one model when it comes to formal decision making, and this shows you the awareness and the importance of pharmacoeconomics when it comes to a decision making, or when it comes to a payer or formulary inclusion, which is heavily utilized by healthcare systems. Now, we understand within the introduction of, or in the pipeline of introduction, these innovative medications with the very high price tag, certain uncertainties is there when it comes for a payer provider. So we have uncertainty on efficacy, we have uncertainties on surrogate endpoints, the effectiveness. So all of these might be very challenging when we are introduced with these new innovative medications with a very high price, knowing that we still have uncertainties with these medications. So to overcome these uncertainties, some of the innovative, let's say, contracting being either risk share, outcome-based agreements that at least addresses our uncertainties when it comes to efficacy. We tend to identify different outcomes with different measures to make sure that we are paying for what does really work, and making sure that we also generate real-world data to support us in the future if there is a new intervention is coming. So we understand what are our population, how is this medication is being, how is this medication works with our population, and in different settings, and understand more, we'll have more data on these medication rather than reflecting only on their international publication that might not really reflect or give us the same outcomes. Now, this to give you the models when it comes to value-based healthcare, so financial based, we do not really work with the financial because it's been covered by NIPCO, which is the national procurement body. So we tend to work heavily with the value-based, and as I said, these value-based or outcome-based have different setup in their proposal. So we look at it might contain financial, being a free initiation or covering of certain cycles, or cap. And we as well understanding or having the outcome based by reflecting certain endpoints and measure these endpoints, whether the patient is being responders or failure. And we have a rebate of certain, let's say, products of the medications being used at the time of the evaluation, and of course different services, whether patient supports program and the building of these digital electronic registries. And the Ministry of Health is now really heavily pushing toward the public-private partnership, which is the direction of the Ministry of Health in the past 3 years. Now, some cases that I wanted to share with you in the past, this is just a collaborative, let's say, efforts that we've done in the Ministry of Health in the last 2 years. We have published, or let's say we've have evaluated more than 18 class reviews with that covers more than 60 plus medication within the as a total of these evaluation. We have published more than 10 posters and manuscript after these evaluations. a potential cost savings from these reviews reached to over than to 250 million. But we need to just, I want to highlight that not all medications that we have introduced has a cost saving, because we understand some of these medications, especially the familiar hypercholesterolemia. We know that the introduction of these medications really, with a high cost, we've spent more, but we believe that we are saving lives by introducing these medications. We just tend to, let's say, highlight the eligibility criteria of patients who will be eligible for these medications, just to make sure that we are utilizing the medication in the right way. One of the cases that it's really dear to my heart is the SMA. As you know, that we are one of the few countries that has introduced the 3 medications that manages or treats the spinal muscular atrophy. We have nusinersen and Spinraza and the oral Evrysdi. All 3 has been available in the national program, and we've done the budget impact model in these 3, and hopefully you are going to see it this year in ISOPOR, inshallah. What we've done with these medications is we have outcome-based agreement with them. So we had one model that has a financial component and an outcome-based component. And this is the scheme of how we introduce these or discuss this agreement with the pharma industry, identifying, as I mentioned, certain endpoints, identifying time of these measurements. And this really helped us with the second version of our value base with this company. So we identified the outcomes that we have received or gathered from our patients much higher than what is available in the literature. So we pushed for a better outcome for our patients, and this is what happened in the second version of this outcome agreements. Second model of the managed entry agreement is the installments model. So having different installments points at different timelines, and these installments is linked with an outcome. So if the patient did not reach this outcome at this specific time, we are not going to pay this installment for the continuous timelines. Third case is a huge class review that we've done for severe arthritis that reflects small molecules and biologics in the management of severe psoriatic arthritis. And we have identified different scenarios, because when we do this budget impact model, we tend to work and create as well guidelines, therapeutic guidelines that will be utilized and to be guidelines for the management of severe psoriatic arthritis. That it will be the component or the building blocks for our registry. So we identified different scenarios, and we selected the most cost effectiveness, let's say, selection when it comes to the management of severe psoriatic arthritis, where we identified the most outcomes we wanted our patient to get. As a conclusion, I just want to highlight about the importance of the pharmacoeconomics and in supporting us in decision making when it comes to a payer perspective, the importance of awareness and more intense training and hands-on on these evaluations. And again, the pharmacoeconomics is what it intends to do is to give us an answer to the value of money when it comes to introduction of any new intervention or new medication to the healthcare system. By this, I end my presentation. Thank you very much. If you have any questions.
Amazing, amazing, mashallah. Thank you so much, Dr. Hajar. Amazing information, and it's impressive how much our dear Saudi medical system have evolved into to be the leader in healthcare system, mashallah. I'm now asking my audience to post their questions in the Q&A box. If you have any question, we'll take a couple of questions, and then I'm sure Dr. Hajar has a lot of obligations that she needs to fulfill throughout the day. Someone did ask about HTA, if you can elaborate on HTA.
Okay, so HTA is being incubated in the Ministry of Health. It has been identified and starting working, and we are what we do is exactly a replica of the HTA. So we've having the models, the evaluations, and we've built the blocks of the HTA. So hopefully by I don't have the exact time, but the HTA is being incubated in the Ministry of Health, and we are working very soon, inshallah, in activating it.
Very good. We do have another question from an anonymous attendee. What do you think the cost for the most commonly used drug classes in terms of the highest cost medications? What would be the number one highest cost classes in the Saudi Arabia that's being used?
So classes, I would say that one, as I mentioned, for the SMA, because being rare and have and one of them is a gene therapy. So these are the most expensive medication. One injection of the gene therapy cost 8 million Saudi riyal, and for the other oral and other intrathecal injection costs more than 2.5 million, or about 3 million annually. And as you know, these medications, a part of the gene, is being given through life for patients. So I think these gene therapies and for the management of rare diseases is the really super high cost of medications.
Right. There's another question, and then I know you're possibly looking at the clock. Just one more question. What is the mechanism to decide the appropriate analysis model?
Okay, so good question. Again, this depends on the perspective of what and your audience, and what is the medications, or let's say the service or intervention that you want to evaluate. For us as payers, we tend to utilize more the budget impact, and we are now moving to cost effectiveness model, as this is our perspective. But there's different, as I mentioned, multiple models that is being selected based on who's your audience and what is the type of your the evaluation or the intervention that you want to evaluate.
Very good. Well, I thank you so much, Dr. Hajar. I'm very pleased and honored to learn from you and see you in person, virtually still, but inshallah we'll see
you. Inshallah.
And I wish you the best.
Thank you so much. I really encourage everyone to stay tuned with Dr. Hanadi Nahas, who is going to give us more a general overview of pharmacoeconomics. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have blessing. God bless you. And our next speaker, with this, we conclude our speech with Dr. Hajar Al-Mudayhim. That was amazing. We will move on to our second speaker, Dr. Hanadi Al-Nahas. She's also, she's here also representing Access Core. Thank you so much for your support. Dr. Hanadi Al-Nahas, she graduated from the College of Pharmacy in 1994 from the Lebanese University, holds many certifications and training in public health and public policy from the American University of Beirut and Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. She's currently holding her position as a general manager of patient access at Access Core. Access Core is based in Lebanon and serving the MENA region. It is a strategic legal entity specialized in market access and health policies. Dr. Nahas have many expertise in business development, market access, governmental affairs, corporate marketing, finance, HR management, many other responsibilities as well in career and people development, quality management, access strategy expertise as well that include identifying business opportunities and pricing, reimbursement, access expertise across the middle, and mashallah, you have so much in the Middle East, and particularly UAE, KSA, and also she specialized in pricing laws and regulations and value, the proposition strategies, stakeholders management as well. Definitely, she is a book that we can all learn from. We're looking forward to see a great example from Access Core here represented by Dr. Hanadi Al-Nahas. Thank you so much for being here with us, and the stage is all yours. You can share your screen.
I think my screen is already shared, right?
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen.
So can you see my screen, Serene?
Not yet.
Okay.
I would like also to thank Nadine Beder. She is one of the key people in this project. Nadine Beder, she also works with Dr. Hanadi Nahas in patient counseling and patient access. We want to thank her for giving us this opportunity to meet Dr. Hanadi Nahas and Access Core in collaboration as well with Dr. Hanadi Jamal. So we're looking forward to learn from you, Dr. Hanadi.
Can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, so it's a slideshow, right?
Correct.
Okay, so
good
afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank you as well, the IVPN team and colleagues. Thank you for the support from the start. Thank you for Ms. Nadine Beder, who actually introduced us to IVPN. Thank you, Dr. Hajar, for accepting our invitation to be a speaker in this platform. And also thank you for the whole audience to be part and giving the time to attend our speech. So what I'm going to take you through is about healthcare and market access from experience. From my personal experience, we're going to talk a bit about theory and application. So Dr. Hajar provided us with the execution of their strategic plans and their vision in Saudi. What we are going to go through is mainly about the concept of market access, whether it's in the pharmaceutical company, whether you are a clinical pharmacist interested or community pharmacy interested in understanding more about market access. But first, I want to introduce myself. So I'm a pharmacist. I will not go through all the details that Ms. Serene said about me. I have 28 years of experience across pharma. My market access experience started in 2009 for 9 years in the pharmaceutical sector. And then when I established Access Core, it was mainly a pure market access across different companies and different markets. Of course, like any person who works in the industry, we get exposed to a numerous number of trainings, and we have multinational interactions with payers, colleagues, and healthcare stakeholders. I'm also a mother of two beautiful girls. So what is the objective of my session today? As you all know, and as Dr. Hajar mentioned, the pharmaceutical industry is a very growing sector. We are always talking about the increasing demand of innovation and effective drugs. And the market access plays a role actually in success for the pharmaceutical companies. So when there is a good market access strategy, and we're going to see this during this session, we are talking more about the availability, the affordability, and the accessibility of these of the pharmaceutical innovation. Of course, every company has their own strategies. They are revising their internal priorities. And in the last 10 years, probably, we saw many different business models changing that shed the light on the market access component in the company and its importance. Of course, market access is not something, a task that we do and that's it. As Dr. Hajar showed us, there are lots of market challenges that the pharmaceutical companies face, but also that the payer face. And of course, this is an open door for opportunities to gain more market access. And also, it's very important to understand the healthcare system we are working on, to identify the payer landscape, the patient needs for us to succeed in such an agenda. So as a brief, we're going to go and cover all this today. What is market access, the landscape? So for those who are attending and not exposed really to market access, probably we will go progressively in the presentation. So what is market access? As we saw directly, it's about getting the right treatment to the right patient at the right time, possibly at the right price, and underline the right price, because this is where all the game is. It's actually with the payers who are going to decide which price, what is best. So the core of the market access function, when we have it, is about the eligible patients that will have a rapid, consistent, and sustained access to medicine. But of course, it's very important because it generates data, and these data are very important for the stakeholders to fund or to adopt this innovation. So market access, although it refers to the company ability for the provision of appropriate treatments for patients, it's not always easy to theoretically mention market access and try to implement it on the ground. So it's not always easy to provide the patient when they need it, where they need it, because we're talking about global conflicts. There are supply shortages, there is economic instability, and of course, many regulatory challenges and changes that impact the market access. Now, coming to the origins of market access, when it started long time ago in the early 2000s in EU and USA, because the payer started having a much more important role in the equation of decision making. In 2008, if I recall well, it was the first country who started with the market access function in the pharmaceutical was the Saudi, and then Lebanon. Then of course it spread it across Middle East, but not across all companies at the same time. It was definitely before to secure reimbursement for new medicines with a broad treatment guidelines and a reasonable time frame. And it's still the objective was, and still mostly, by submitting formal dossier to agencies and to ensure the approval, the reimbursement approval. This was the story of market access. So now throughout the presentation, we're going to see how things have changed to become like what
Sorry, Dr. Nahas, I'm sorry. I think the slideshow is, can you try to click through? I think it's stuck on one
slide. Now can you see?
Now you can move forward, yes, because I think you forgot to click through your presentation. Thank you so much.
So the traditional approach was successful before because the environment was dominated by blockbusters in the developed markets, and because the payers were looking at the physician as the primary drivers of the treatment decision. Coming to my personal experience that I would like to share with you, back in 2009, and depending on the countries, the market access was totally unknown. So what was the landscape by then? There was no landscape. When I started, nobody understood what was my role. I didn't know, I didn't have the tools to know what was my role. And I struggled a lot internally with the colleagues to be able to cross-function together. So there was no understanding of the importance of health economy back then, no capabilities yet, no acknowledgement of the importance of this function. And of course, the pharma companies used to follow the conventional approach. Bottom line, patient was not at the center of the equation back in 2009. So the terminology was more about the product, the deals, the tasks. The health economy was something very new. The role of physician, there was a confusion whether the physician is still the one who is prescribing and that's it or not. And the pharmacist was not also at the center of his role in dispensing and on explaining for the patients about the drug. Then why market access was created? So I don't know if you know, but for each company to bring a pharmaceutical innovation to the market, the research and development pays a lot. So we're talking about minimum of $2 billion US. Yet, with all this huge amount of investment, more than a third of all the new launches in the United States fail to meet expectation. Why? Because for the product launch to be successful or a failure, there are so many elements that should be counted. So we're talking about economical evidence, affordability, market access strategy and execution. Many companies believe that this is something that is not of importance. However, the big companies, of course, started long time ago on following these elements. So this is very important for the success of the product launch. In the world of today, what is our terminology? So today we're talking more and more about policymakers, about payers, GDP, budget, funding, healthcare system. So it's no longer the deal, even though we might talk as a deals, but these are more put into different terminology, managed entry agreement, setting up patient value-based outcomes, etc. So who are the payers? For those who are not exposed, these are the most important stakeholders in the access policy and for the access people working in the pharmaceutical. But also the pharmaceutical needs also to, the authorities needs also to understand that pharma companies play a big role in collaborating with them. Without any collaboration, there is no outcome. So the payers can be public and private. The payers have their own struggle as well in regards to cost containment and measurable value. They struggle a lot to cope with the pressures around them. So they have their own struggles. And our role as pharmaceutical is to come and collaborate and put ourselves in their shoes. So what changed since 2009 until today? What changed is that in 2017-18, there was this big biosimilar hit where all blockbusters lost their patent and the payers started shifting expenditure to newer therapies. Some pharmaceutical company like Astra and Takeda, they divest their portfolio. Some others moved their primary care to the new companies like Pfizer and MSD to focus more and more on innovation. The second driver for this whole change was because of the scientific revolution and the market dominated by therapies targeting specific disease pathways. The third driver is the research and development, whereby we still need very long trials to get approvals for the drug, which means that we are still talking about a huge investment in R&D. However, with COVID-19 process, the fast development of the COVID itself, especially the RNA technology, has provided a different way of accessing to the patients. So maybe we hope that the processes after COVID will be streamlined. So as a conclusion to this part, definitely therapies like biomarker testing are more and more targeting smaller populations. We're talking about the era of personalized medicine. We're still talking about high level of investment, reimbursement dynamics, different treatments that are topping a very high cost. This is all have led to a new model of market access. And this is where some huge companies and pharmaceutical companies, the big ones, started actually before the other companies in embracing and adopting the 4 pillars new model of access strategy. So according to Deloitte, to PRMA, sorry, we have different pillars. We're managing access across the product life cycle. There is a market access from product access, we're moving to patient access. Internally, they are focusing on the job to be done for patients, and finally, to add art to the science, more innovation. So for those of you who are asking, or probably who are not exposed to product life cycle, as you can see, this is in red. So everything before the red line needs to engage the payers. So some huge companies started, but some other companies and some other market access functions need to understand in some firms that engaging the payers ahead of time is very important, because it saves time and it reflects collaboration and alignment at all levels. This doesn't mean that after the red line there is no role of market access. Definitely there is, and this is a very important slide for whoever works in market access. Payers also need to understand this, and this is how now we see that there are some healthcare systems in some countries that are stronger and more solid than other countries because of the engagement with the other stakeholders in healthcare. So if I want to compare, just to give you how we do it, is that whenever someone is born, we grow up, we mature, and we pass away. This is exactly what happened for the product life cycle. We have a product launch where we have higher investment, less profits, more awareness, of course. Then we go to the stage 2, we are growing. We have a successful launch, more demand, more competition, better return on investment. Then we move to the stage 3 where the product is mature. And this is where we expect definitely more competition, less expenses on the drug, little growth potential. And this is where we expect that if we have extension of new indications, different patient profile, and finally, the decline of the drug where the market is saturated, where there is a decline. And this explains exactly where some companies decide to divest. They don't want to invest anymore because the product is not growing. And all this journey should be aligned with the payers as well. This is a very brief slide showing the role of access pathway from the beginning till the end. Now, coming to each pillar that we mentioned before, when we talk about driving access and value across the product life cycle, what do we mean by that? We mean that we need to probably accelerate the timelines for the product registration or access to the patient. We mean that product is reimbursed, so we have availability. We are more and more shifting from value creation to how we can persevere the value. We're looking into pricing management. Dr. Hajar mentioned things about patient support and managed entry agreement. This is where we actually start to invest on patient support to address all the gaps, the disease management solution, etc. The second part and the second pillar is about shift the emphasis from product access to patient access. And this is something we started seeing with many companies like Novartis, Roche, Pfizer, etc. And this is very important because patients are also employees in companies. So the market access needs to be from a holistic approach. Awareness, availability, and affordability are key in this section. The third pillar, and this is something that could be seen as internal for pharma industry, is the cross-functional job. So inside the pharmaceutical company, it's key for all the functions to work together. And for those who still don't have this concept inside their organization, definitely they will pave the way for this. And this also should be aligned by internally at the Ministry of Health, at the level of authorities. So all the payers should also align when a certain company approaches them with a certain innovation. There should be like some sort of task force to work together and to make the decision faster for the sake of the patients. The last one is definitely adding art, and we are talking here about the data and the digital solutions. Now we are often seeing the artificial intelligence role in healthcare. So we're talking more about outcomes-based models and payment model value-based models. So who impacts actually the access policy? Is it the product? Is it the patient? So in this slide, I put the product in the center because this is how we used to see it before. And I highlighted three main pillars or three main stakeholders that are now decision makers. So whether it's the product or it's the patients, definitely there should be an alliance between everyone sitting on the table deciding on what is the right innovation and how we can fund it. And this can only happen if everyone is working cross-functionally at this level. So I was navigating a study about how to rethink market access. And the objective of the study, and this was done by Deloitte Center of Health Solutions, this was done actually to understand the challenges associated with how to launch new products in different disease areas. So between September 2021 and November 2021, there were like 16 industry participants, experts in market access, that have been interviewed from 14 biopharma and 2 market access consultancies. And I'm quoting some of their statements. Most of these experts replied the following. So payers definitely should be engaged. And these are quotes for these experts. So help payers understand how the drug helps, especially if you are substituting an existing product. Payers like to have a narrative that shows that we as pharmaceutical understand what payers do today, what that investment buys, and how you can come in is important. I like this one. It's actually more metaphoric. So you want people to tell you if your baby is ugly or not before you bring it to the market and then find out it's ugly and you have invested billions of dollars to bring it. Early engagement of stakeholders, mainly payers, mostly 18 to 24 months before launch, so they are exposed to the molecule, mode of action, clinical trial, etc. So why all this? Because the earlier, the better, the quicker for the patient to access the innovation. So you will get the recording. I will not go through them. So finally, organizations should consider trade-off. We have to think about time to access when I have this medication. What are the types of physicians who diagnose and treat the illness? What is the patient coverage by payers? What is the market share, the volume, the rebates that the company is willing to do? These things should be also not the health authorities and the payers needs to understand how we pharmaceutical industry think. The cost of the patient affordability, what does it help? And finally, the landscape assessment. So we have to understand the disease, the patient, the unmet needs, the access journey. What do we mean by access journey? It's a very easy word, but it's very complex when it comes to practice. You have to involve everyone so that at the end of the day, and even the analysis that we used to do, like the SWOT, now we're talking more and more about the PEST. We need to understand the political vision of the country, the economical status, the social and the technology to really understand how we can position ourselves better, just like we saw with Dr. Hajar. Healthcare system is a key word. It's very broad, of course. This is something that we study in public health. We need to really understand what is the role of the healthcare system we live in, and what are the outcomes, what are they looking at, how can we pave the way, how can we collaborate with payers who lives in countries like our countries that are not advanced today in serving or accessing, but still struggling and doing what they can to provide our patients with their medications. So all this needs to be really understood. This is only one part of the market access concept that I wanted to share from my personal experience, but also from interacting with different people across the region. And I would like to end, like every stage of the life cycle is very important. We need to really understand if we are payers or if we are pharma, we need to understand the same language of what does it mean environmental scans, why we are doing the gap analysis, what are the company offering us, and what we as payers are requesting from them and for which objective. So with this, I would like to thank you. My professional and personal email for those who like to contact me. Of course, I didn't put my disclaimer, but I'm representing myself and my proper experience, so there is no conflict of interest, and the floor is open for any questions.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Hanati. I really enjoyed your presentations. It's very beautiful, very thorough, and easy to understand. We do have a lot of different hospital healthcare professionals and pharmacists, non-pharmacists. We do have a variety of audience. So I'm sure everybody got a very good understanding of the concept. We do have a question, if you're okay with that. We'll take a couple questions. So we do have a question from an anonymous attendee. Does the identity of the payer and their motivation need to be made public in order to foster trust and public acceptability of their interventions in the market?
Can you repeat the question, Celine? I didn't get it clearly.
Yeah, so does the identity of the payers and their motivations need to be made public in order to foster trust and public acceptability of their interventions in the market? So do we need to know the motivations for the payers before you actually invest with them? I'm assuming
I don't know if the one
or maybe any conflict of interest, or is it only
there should
purely
be definitely in all health authorities or Ministry of Health. Definitely, we are talking about different people, different profiles of people. But when it comes to collaborating with the health authorities, there are guidelines and regulations that we should respect. Now, coming to the motivation of the payer prior to collaborating, usually you have a vision. So whenever a pharma company or anyone who is having an objective with the payer, they should have a common interest to serve the patient. That should be the common interest. Motivation, I don't know what the person meant by motivation, but definitely everyone working together for the sake of the patient. This is part of our moral duty and our work. So if they are working in healthcare, they definitely have a moral duty before being motivated. I prefer to, this is what I understood from the question. Because
yeah, me too. Thank you so much. We do have some greetings for you from Algeria, from Ahmed Assad.
Okay, thank you.
Just he wants to say from Algeria to Hanati from Ahmed Assad. I wanted to let you know that you're very famous, mashallah, in the region. And I do have a question from Raslan Al-Anazi. How will we be able to build strategies in the market?
Very nice question. We don't build strategies. We work cross-functionally for everyone to understand where do we want to go, what do we need to reach, what are the milestones that will be there for us to measure what we are doing. And it's not something that we do from one day to another. This is a plan. So whoever you are working with the team, you need to build a strategy by cross-functional. Of course, we can help you, we can assist you, but definitely building strategy is very important in market access. In every company, there should be a market access plan. And I advise, based on my experience, some payers need to sit with us, even as an external observer, and look at us, how we work, so that they can really buy in the value of the product. And this is only how you can build strategy, by collaborating and partnering with other stakeholders.
Very good. I do have a question as well from Ahmed Ali Farragh. And this is possibly for you and Dr. Haja, but I know Dr. Haja is not with us now. But as he's a health economics and new science of pharma industry, how do you find the acceptance from pharma companies to collaborate and accept health economics and HTA? So I'm assuming is health pharma industry now accepting more the health economics and then like using data and HTA, the strategies.
What's his name? Sorry.
What's the name?
The name of the person who asked.
Oh, Ahmed Ali Farragh.
Ahmed Ali. Okay.
Faraj, maybe Faraj, I'm assuming.
For Ahmed, if you ask me the question 15 years ago, I would tell you definitely there was no acceptance, at least in our region. From what I know is that when they started in Saudi, they were the first to accept the concept of market access, and they started back then the concept of health economy. Having said that, with the expensive cost of drugs and innovation, definitely everyone was deviating the attention towards this health economy concept and HTA. Not all the healthcare systems are ready to embrace all the advanced strategies and technologies, but definitely with the presence of the chapter of ISPOR in each country, or the local committees related to health economy, the concept is more and more accepted. Probably not well used or executed, but definitely it's better than before. And we have many people who are now exposed to health economy inside pharma, outside pharma. It depends always whether the Ministry of Health are putting this as a requirement to accept or to reject an innovation.
Awesome. That's beautifully said. I think I just have one question for you from myself to ask you, Dr. Hannadi, is that what do you suggest for our new pharmacists and new professionals who are, graduating and or still in school, in terms of like market access, because it's such a new concept for us, as I'm a pharmacist who graduated in the early 2000s. What do you suggest for the new generation to know about market access, or to seek knowledge about market access? Where should we go to look for more information? Any suggestion for you so we can be enlightened more to learn more about this?
Yes, I agree with you that for people who are not exposed, market access could sound very dry and very confusing, because it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's a concept, it's a mindset. I do advise the people who are graduating from universities to be more exposed, because they have an impact to play. And when they go to apply to pharma companies, not to limit themselves, I'm a health economist and that's it. We should pass through the pathway of each one who entered the pharma. And then we can make a better choice whether we want to be pure market access or we want to be a player in the market access. Market access is not a one-man show. Market access is a concept, is a journey. It's orchestrated by people, by one people. It's definitely also orchestrated by the collaboration that we build with authorities. So for the pharmacists, for the new generation, be exposed, go out of the academic profile, try to look more into what's happening inside the markets, and then you can decide later on what is your path and whether you want it to be pure market access or part of market access, because we all do market access when we work in healthcare.
Yes, we do, directly, indirectly, whether we know it or not. We all do it. Yes, it's our day-to-day routine. Thank you so much, Dr. Hannadi Nahas. I also want to thank Nadine Bider as well. Again, acknowledge her great efforts that she did as well to get this presentation to life. I appreciate your time and your patience with us. IVPN, thank you, and thank Dr. Hajar. You guys added more value to our IVPN patient support. We do have about more than 1,000 attendants in this presentation. For our attendees who are here from Saudi, your CE will be submitted automatically. You don't have to share your numbers or any personal information. We will be sending within the next 2 weeks your information to the Saudi Commission for your CE hours. It is 2 CE hour presentation that was very valuable, very new, very unique. And all of our attendees as well, within the next 2 weeks, they will get a certificate of attendance. And if anybody have any further information or questions would like to share, please send us an email, and please join us for IVPN patient support as well. So with this, I know you have a very busy night. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Celine. Thank you, Dr. Tabbara and the whole IVPN team. And thanks, of course, for the attendance. It means a lot. And we hope that we continue this variety of talks and presentations. Thank you.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. It's our mission to share knowledge. Dr. Osama, you are the heart of our IVPN. It was a pleasure and an honor for me to have you here tonight with us. And with this, we wish you all a very nice evening. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.